She was merely a 15-year-old young girl. With that frail body, how could she break free from that thick ropes wrapped a few times around the rock, even tied with knots? Being trapped in this remote and unfamiliar place, the young girl started to feel frightened. She thought about the moment before she had fainted. Even the most naive person would also know that Fang Yuan was going to do something bad to her.
But how would Fang Yuan deal with me? What is he planning to do? Is it because I complained about him to Grandma? Thus he is taking revenge?
The young girl was tied helplessly, but her thoughts quickly flipped like pages of a book. The more she thought, the more frightened she got, and she started sobbing uncontrollably.
Grandma, where are you? Quickly come and save me!
As she cried, she felt an intense fear and loneliness. Fang Yuan was nowhere to be seen, and the cave was filled with her cries.
Is Fang Yuan planning to trap me here for 7-8 days?
After crying for a while, Gu Yue thought of a possibility.
Too evil. Fang Yuan, I will never forgive you.
She gritted her teeth as her impression of Fang Yuan, which was bad from the start, fell into negatives. Since her birth, Gu Yue had not hated a person so much. At this moment, footsteps were heard. Soon, Fang Yuan's silhouette was seen emerging from the shadows.
What do you want? Let go of me now. Otherwise, my grandma will deal with you.
Seeing Fang Yuan, Gu Yue struggled intensely, her slim legs stomping on the ground like a small deer that fell into a trap.
You sure are lively.
Fang Yuan coldly snorted. Gu Yue was about to open her mouth and continue crying in a rage, but she soon saw a large bear moving behind Fang Yuan. Her widened eyes showed shock as she stuttered. Fang Yuan laughed coldly, stretching out his hand and caressing the bear's black fur, his voice filled with coldness that flowed in the cave like ominous winds.
Because of the wolf tide, it was not easy to find such a wild bear. It took me lots of time and effort to find it.
Gu Yue reacted instantly. Her quick-witted thoughts soon remembered that Fang Yuan had once taken a bear enslavement gu from Xiongjiaoman.
So that's it.
She laughed coldly and was about to speak, but Fang Yuan suddenly squatted in front of her. The young girl tried to move away, but Fang Yuan easily used his right hand and grabbed her cheeks firmly.
Such a cute appearance. Lovable indeed.
Fang Yuan plainly commented. His right hand moved quickly, grabbing Yao Lei's shirt and pulled. The shirt was instantly torn, showing her pink undergarment. The young girl was stunned momentarily before shrieking loudly, frantically struggling. Even though her tender muscles bled due to friction from the ropes, she couldn't care less. Fang Yuan laughed coldly, continuing to pull and tear her clothing apart. Soon, the young girl's ragged garment was only left with a few torn strips of cloth, showing off large areas of her milky, delicate flesh. She was extremely frightened, crying out loudly. As she thought of all the various possible ways Fang Yuan was going to deal with her whole body shook and trembled. However, Fang Yuan did not continue on as she expected, but instead he stood up and moved backwards. The young girl's loud cries turned into sobbing, but at this moment the black bear moved its paws and got closer. The young girl was frightened as her iris shrunk into pin size, for at this moment she felt an intense sensation of death. The bear paw struck, and the sound of it breaking air could be heard. With a crisp sound, the young girl's skull was hit, and the intense force broke her thin neck. Her head was twisted at a creepy angle, broken and hanging on one end. One moment ago, she was still an alluring beauty, and the next moment she was a corpse. Her warm body tied to the huge rock was like a broken toy doll. At this moment, even without Fang Yuan's control of the bear enslavement gu, with its craving for food, the black bear had already lowered its head, enjoying this sumptuous meal. It first started to gnaw at the young girl's throat, and fresh blood immediately bubbled out, splashing onto its black fur. Next was the young girl's white and tender breasts, like flower buds that were unopened. The black bear bit on her right breast in one whole mouthful, tearing away the skin and flesh, exposing her deathly pale ribs. At this moment, the black bear used its paw to break these bones. The young girl's internal organs were crushed, and immediately blood poured out endlessly. Without the skeleton's interference, the black bear placed its mouth further into the girl's body. It nipped at the girl's heart that was still beating, then proceeded to swallow it in one mouthful. The heart passed through its throat and into the stomach, and this bear that had to hide around and couldn't eat due to the wolf tide howled out in satisfaction. After another cry, it lowered its head again and started to consume her internal organs wantonly. Chomp, chomp, chomp. The black bear's mouth opened and chewed, large amounts of blood gushing out from its mouth, issuing a watery sound. After a good while, the black bear finally moved its head out. The young girl's chest was already empty, the immense injury extending to her stomach. But towards the shining white intestines, the bear did not seem to have much interest. It started to focus on the young girl's white, slim legs. The girl's jade-like fingers were all bitten away by the black bear at once, and with a few rounds of chewing, the fingers were swallowed with a crisp sound. The girl's thighs were also a delicacy. The tender skin and flesh of her thighs emitted a virgin fragrance. When the bear had finished, all that was left was the white leg bones. Among the swaying movements, the girl's skull finally dropped onto the ground. To be honest, she did have a cute appearance. Those black, lustrous eyes with a round nose slightly pointing up, and her skin blushing like peach blossoms, with a small mouth and 2 rows of white, clean teeth. But now her face had lost the color of blood, her skin turning deathly pale. Her fine black hair was left hanging, covering half of her face, with those pair of eyes staring wide open, filled with fear and anger. A death full of grievance. Fang Yuan folded his arms as he observed Gu Yue Yaolei's expression, thinking of a Buddhist saying on earth,
No matter how beautiful the guy or girl, they eventually turn into a skeleton. Bones, skin, and flesh are one, but people favored skin and flesh while fearing bones. This is being fixated on appearance, not recognizing that all is equal. This Buddhist term is calling for humans to break through all forms, seeing the truth. Beauty is superficial, and people, me, the world, and time is all superficial. If one goes past the superficial aspect, they would see Buddha, recognizing and going beyond, treating all as equal. All is equal. Thus, Buddha sacrificed his body to feed tigers, cutting off his flesh to feed eagles. This was the benevolence in his heart, seeing all in this world as his own, loving everything, and his great love for everything. No matter if it's me, others, animals, or plants, or even the lifeless rocks and water, even those that do not exist, we have to love them. If a mortal standing there watches the bear eat a person, some hot-blooded teenager would jump out and scream, "You beast, don't you dare eat a person." This was the mortal's love and hatred, loving young girls and hating large bears, not going beyond and still fixating on the superficial, not able to see her red human skeleton. If Buddha stood there and watched the bear eat a person, he would sigh, chanting, "If I do not enter hell, who would enter?" He would save the young girl and feed himself to the black bear. This was Buddha's love and hatred, loving the young girl and loving the bear, treating all as equal.
But right now, Fang Yuan was the one standing here. Seeing the young girl's tragic and violent death, his heart was unmoved. This was not because of his numbness to death, but he had gone beyond the superficial, having no obsessions. Without a sense of self, without a sense of person. To be detached of all living things, detached of the sense of time. Seeing all living things as equal, the world is equal. Thus the girl's death is no different from a fox or a tree's death. But to a mere mortal, the girl's death would trigger their anger, hatred, and pity. If it was the girl eating the bear, they would not feel anything. If an old lady was eaten, the pity in their hearts would be greatly reduced. If it was a villain, a murderer getting eaten, they would clap their hands in joy, praising. In actuality, all beings are equal and heaven and earth is just. Nature is fair, disregarding love or hate. It is emotionless and never gives differential treatment. Rule of the strong, victor takes all.
The disappearance of a life form towards the entire natural realm and the infinite cosmos to the long river of history. What does it amount to? Death means death. Who can choose not to die? What talk about a girl, bear, ant, fox, tree, old lady, murderer? They are all lowly, humble, mongrels. Only by recognizing this and going beyond the superficial, Arriving at the truth, does one gain divinity? This divinity, taking a step towards the light, it becomes Buddha. If it takes a step towards the darkness, it becomes a demon, demonic nature.